Your freezer is almost certainly not the problem, and the food inside it is not going bad for the reason you think it is. Here's one, right now. Stop freezing things in tubs. Pour whatever you're freezing, soup, sauce, stewed rhubarb, into a flat freezer bag, lay it flat until it's solid, then stand it up on its spine like a book. A shapeless block that needs 2 days to defrost turns into a flat sheet that's ready in 20 minutes, in a fraction of the space it used to take. That's one of 12 in this video, and it isn't the biggest one. None of the other 11 ask you to buy a single new container either. Not because we're more disciplined, or tidier, or somehow better at willpower than you are. I'm Ingrid. I grew up outside Umeå, in the north of Sweden, where the freezer wasn't a lifestyle choice. It was how a family ate through 4 months when almost nothing grew nearby. My mother, Karin, still freezes exactly the way her mother taught her, and none of it involves throwing food away. Tonight, it's the date that actually means something. Freezing flat instead of in tubs, bread sliced before it goes in, herbs frozen in oil, stock made from vegetable scraps, blanching before freezing rather than after, a list taped to the door, freezing leftovers the same day instead of eventually, first in and first out, nothing frozen in its original packet, one portion at a time instead of a family block, and the one habit every other habit here quietly depends on. Do the first 11 for 1 week and you'll notice the difference. Do the 12th and you'll stop finding gray, freezer-burned mystery bags you can't identify. I'm saving that one for the end. It's the smallest thing on the list and the one that surprised me most. One thing before we start. This video is 12 habits. I wrote a book with 150 of them, called The Nordic Way, 128 pages covering the whole house and the whole year. Cleaning, sleep, light, food, and what we never buy. It's a PDF. On my site, link under this video. I won't bring it up again. One caution before the list. This is about freezing food while it's still fresh, not about refreezing something that's already thawed and sat out on a counter. That's a food safety line, not a waste one, worth knowing before you start moving things around in there. Number 12, the date that actually means something. Most things go into the freezer written on with a marker that fades within a month, or with nothing written at all, so anything past the top layer becomes a guess. We write 2 dates, the day something went in, and the day it needs to come back out. A single date tells you when it was frozen, not how long it's good for, and that gap is what gets things thrown away unused. This replaces the smell test, and it replaces buying pre-portioned frozen meals just because the packet tells you what's inside. Most people can name 2 or 3 things in their freezer right now they can no longer identify. Number 11 is about the shape those bags take before any of that matters. Number 11. Freezing flat. Most freezers fill with round tubs and lumpy bags stacked on each other, so nothing at the bottom is visible and nothing in the middle can be reached without unpacking the shelf. We freeze anything liquid flat first, on a tray, and only stand it up once solid. A flat sheet stores and thaws like a book, evenly and fast, where a round block stays in ice core for hours after the edges soften. This replaces buying a second, bigger freezer, the usual answer to one that's full of air gaps rather than actually full of food. Number 10 is what happens before bread reaches that shelf. Number 10. Bread, sliced before it freezes. A loaf usually goes in whole, which means thawing the entire thing for 2 slices of toast, and the rest goes stale within a day of coming back out. We slice the whole loaf before it goes in, every time. Frozen bread thaws almost instantly once it's thin, so 2 slices go straight from the freezer into a toaster with no plan required. This replaces small, frequent trips to the shop for fresh bread, because a sliced frozen loaf is functionally as convenient for the 2 weeks it takes to work through it. A loaf thawed whole, used partially and refrozen, is where most bread waste happens. Number 9. Saves the thing people throw away fastest of anything in the kitchen. Number 9. Herbs, frozen in oil. Fresh herbs get bought for 1 recipe, used a third of the way through, and thrown out wilted a week later. We chop what's left, pack it into an ice cube tray, cover it with a little oil, and freeze it in tablespoon portions. The oil stops the dry burn plain frozen herbs get, so a cube goes straight into a hot pan and behaves almost exactly like fresh. This replaces buying dried herbs as a fallback, and the guilt-driven habit of buying a second bunch because the first didn't make it. A tray of these cubes sits for months with no real change in how they cook. Number 8 uses the same trick on something people usually pay for in a carton. Number 8, stock, made from what's already been thrown away. Most homes peel an onion, trim the carrots, and put the bones straight in the bin, then buy stock in a carton the same week. We keep a bag for exactly this: onion skins, carrot tops, herb ends, chicken or fish bones, and once full, it becomes stock. None of it has gone off, it's just separated from the part people expect to eat, and simmered for an hour, it releases everything a carton of stock is selling. This replaces buying stock at all, a small but constant line on most shopping lists. Number 7 is the step almost nobody does before freezing vegetables, and it's why frozen vegetables at home turn to mush. Number 7, blanching before freezing, not after thawing. Raw vegetables usually go straight into a bag and into the freezer, and come out soft, gray, and slightly bitter, blamed on the freezer rather than the vegetable. We blanch first, a minute or two in boiling water, then straight into ice water, then dry, then freeze. Raw vegetables carry an enzyme that keeps breaking them down even at freezing temperatures, and a brief blanch stops it before it ruins the texture. This replaces buying frozen vegetables at the shop, which are blanched industrially before they're ever bagged, the actual reason they hold their texture. A blanched, home-frozen vegetable keeps its color and bite for the better part of a year, where an unblanched one turns within weeks. Here's the thing running under all 7 of these, and it isn't really about temperature. Every failure so far is a visibility and timing problem, not a freshness one. Food doesn't go bad in a freezer because the freezer failed. It goes bad because nobody could see it, reach it, or remember it in time. Keep that in mind, because the last 6 habits are all built on exactly that. Quick pause before the last 6. Everything here is one section of that book. Section 8, Food and Kitchen. There are 9 sections, and the one people write to me about most is stadning, the room-by-room way of letting go of things, which walks through exactly how much of anything is enough to keep, one drawer at a time. Same link, under the video. Now, number 6. Number 6. A list taped to the door. The freezer is usually a black box, so people buy things they already have 3 of, or forget things exist until they're freezer burned past use. We keep a small list taped inside the door, updated by hand every time something goes in or comes out. A freezer with a list functions like a shop with a stock count, and one without functions like a shop nobody's checked in a year. This replaces smart freezer trackers and inventory apps sold to fix exactly this, because a pencil and a sheet of paper solve it for nothing. A freezer without one gets opened, every time, with the same vague hope. Number 5 is how quickly something needs to make it onto that list. Number 5, freezing leftovers the same day, not eventually. Leftovers usually sit in the fridge for 2 or 3 days with good intentions attached, get pushed to the back, and go in the bin the moment they start to smell. We freeze anything we're not eating within a day, the same evening it's cooked, in a labeled, single portion. A fridge only slows decay. A freezer stops it. And every day something spends deciding whether it'll be eaten is a day closer to being wasted. This replaces the emergency takeaway on a night nobody wants to cook, because same-day frozen leftovers are a faster meal than any delivery app. Food frozen within a day of cooking tastes, reheated almost exactly like it did the first night, and coming home to a labeled bag already sorted out is its own quiet bit of hygge, comfort you don't have to build from nothing on a tired evening. Number 4 decides which portions actually get used first. Number 4, first in, first out. Freezers usually get loaded from the front, so the newest thing bought is always easiest to reach, while whatever's pushed to the back is functionally gone until a clear-out finds it. We load new items at the back and pull everything forward each time something's added, so the front of any shelf is always the oldest thing on it. It's the same system any kitchen or shop runs on, and it works because it removes the need to remember anything. The position is the memory. This replaces the specialty freezer bins and rotating organizers sold to solve exactly this, which a 5-second habit does for free. Number 3 is about what most food is still wearing when it goes in. Number 3, nothing freezes in its original packet. Food usually goes in however it was bought: a supermarket tray, a plastic wrapper, a takeaway tub, none built to keep air out at freezing temperatures. We take everything out of its packaging first and repackage it properly, wrapped tightly, or with the air pressed out. Freezer burn is really dehydration, air reaching the surface and drawing moisture out, and thin supermarket packaging does almost nothing to stop that over weeks. This replaces buying disposable cling film and freezer bags constantly, since reusable containers and a habit of pressing out the air do the same job for free. Number 2. One portion at a time, never a family block. Most homes freeze in the shape food was bought, a whole pack of mints, a full bag of berries, meaning thawing far more than one meal needs. We portion everything before it freezes. By the actual meal it'll become one bag per person per dinner, which is really just lagom, exactly enough and no more. Thawing more than needed creates a second decision every time, use it all or refreeze part of it, and that decision is where most freezer waste actually happens. This replaces the individually wrapped, portion-controlled ready meals sold at a premium specifically because they solve the sizing problem home freezing usually doesn't. Here's what I want you to know about why nobody taught you any of this. The storage and organizing industry sells containers instead of decisions, and a container is a way of putting off a choice rather than making one, which is exactly why it's profitable. Nobody runs a campaign telling you to portion, label, and rotate what you own, because there's no margin in a habit that costs nothing. It's easier to sell a bigger freezer or a subscription of pre-portioned meals than to say a pencil and 20 minutes on a Sunday does the same job for free. It isn't an accident, and it isn't your fault. You don't have to live with a freezer that feels like a lost cause. Number 1. The empty shelf. Most freezers are packed completely full, which feels efficient, and is actually why everything else on this list quietly stops working. We keep one shelf, or one drawer, permanently empty. A full freezer has nowhere for tonight's leftovers to go, nowhere to rotate stock into, and no space to see what's at the back. So the list stops getting updated and the whole system collapses into a guessing game. Every other habit here eventually fails without this one, because all of them depend on there being somewhere to put something new. This replaces needing a second freezer at all, which is usually just a first freezer that was never allowed an empty shelf. I won't inflate this for you. It's the least interesting idea in the whole video, and it's the one that makes every other one keep working. Don't overhaul the whole freezer this week. Pick one shelf, empty it completely tonight, and leave it that way. Which of these 12 is hardest for you to actually keep up? Just drop the number below. Next time, I'm taking that empty shelf and going further with it, into what actually earns the right to fill it back up first. Somewhere in your freezer tonight, there's a shelf with nothing on it, and for the first time in a while, that's exactly how it should be.